Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Good to have you on the show today. We got a jam-packed show filled with a bunch of great topics. NFL football, what a game. What a game to start off the NFL season. Lions, Chiefs. Newsflash, Jared Goff is undefeated versus Mahomes. What an ending to the game. A little bit of controversy, which I'll get into, with one of the Chiefs' offensive linemen that was swirling around social media last night. But let's jump into that topic exactly. So the Lions took down the Chiefs 21-20. Jared Goff and Mahomes battled it out. The previous time they played, it was the third highest scoring game in NFL history. It was 54-51, like I said before. Jared Goff taking the crown on that one as well. This time, it was a little bit different, though. It was Mahomes actually playing okay, except, without Travis Kelce, every single Chiefs receiver seemed like they had butter on their hands and could not catch a single pass. So I want to know, let's jump into the actual question now. Did the Lions win this game, or did the Chiefs ultimately lose it?
Well, I would say the Lions benefited from Travis Kelce not being in the game and Chris Jones not playing because he's disputing his contract. I think that was the first benefit that the Lions had before they even stepped onto the field. I think those two factors played a pretty big key in this game because the Chiefs never seemed to get any kind of really good rhythm on offense. And Kelce probably would have helped that a lot. And I think it's disappointing for the Chiefs given that they were celebrating their Super Bowl victory last year at this game and to lose that game 21-20. They've got to leave a pretty sour taste in their mouth. I think that the Chiefs beat themselves rather than being beaten by the Lions, although I'll give the Lions a lot of credit. They played well, and I thought Jared Goff played very well. Let's just a couple of stats here. They had 8 drop passes. Kadarius Toney had 4 of them, and one of them, it was right to him, right on his hands, and he bumped up in the air, and that was an interception that went for a touchdown. That was a huge play in this game. He dropped another one when they were driving late in the game. Would have given him a first down. That was a big play. So most of the drops came on plays that made a difference. And the Chiefs were 5 of 14 on third downs. They weren't helped much by the coaching decisions. They kicked 2 field goals. When one of the plays, it was a very short fourth down play. They could have made that. If they could have made that, maybe they'd score a touchdown, and then they could have put the game out of reach. Instead, they left it only 6-point lead, and the Lions went down and scored, and 21-20. There you go. The Chiefs only had 45 yards from the 3 running back trio there, and I think Mahomes was the leading rusher for them. So, they got some work to do there. They need to get Kelce back. They need to sign Chris Jones.
I'll say this. It was shocking, very, very shocking just to see how bad that Chiefs offense was. It wasn't even close to being some sort of, the normal Chiefs offense that we're used to seeing. But something that I took away from this game, at least on the Chiefs side, is defensively, they didn't seem like they, had a huge impact in Chris Jones' absence. Since the opening touchdown, every single offensive drive, this is how it went. Fumble, punt, turnover on downs, punt, then there was the pick 6, which was the 14-17 going into the half, then punt, then the touchdown, and then turnover on downs, and then the final possession was when they kneeled it out. So the offense, to open up last year, the Lions had the highest scoring offense through a number of weeks early on in the season. This is not the same Lions dynamic offense that we're used to seeing, at least against a Chiefs team that was without their best pass rusher in Chris Jones. Now, it's not that Chris Jones couldn't play. It was the fact that he's dealing with the contract situation. If he was hurt, that's a different thing. This is simply just a personal matter between Chris Jones and the Chiefs. He could have played if he were just to play on whatever measly deal he believes that he has. Now, reportedly, he was going for 3 years, $84 million. With Nick Bosa's massive contract, I guarantee you that price just went up. I'll also say this. When it comes to Mahomes, 2 completions out of 12 attempts to wide receivers in the second half. So Mahomes could not get the ball to his receivers. He tried his best, but there were a few drops from Kadarius Toney, a couple of which I'm actually not going to put on him. The first one would be, I forget who the second receiver was, but it was Kadarius Toney and another receiver. They were doing a crossing route where they were overlapping each other. And they almost ran into each other, and the route was so perfectly timed that Mahomes put it where they were exactly meeting one another. So I can understand, especially from a young receiver standpoint, that if that ball is coming to you and there's a receiver in front of you and you guys are basically meeting at the point the ball is about to hit either of you, that you don't know exactly who it's going to. So I can understand from that point. And there was another one, the big one on one of the final drives where they went for it on like 4th and 25, where basically Kadarius Toney was wide open. It did, go through his hands. However, it wasn't that good of a throw. It was actually very much behind him, and it wasn't the fact that, Mahomes was trying to protect him from maybe a top safety that could have taken his head off, or from a blindside tackler from the other side where he was looking. No, he was pretty much wide open. He completely beat his man, and Mahomes actually, that was not a great throw, but you could also argue that Kadarius Toney probably should have caught that pass. But the offense was very, very stagnant and bare. And this goes back to what I said actually on Friday, where I said Kelce's impact is massive. I mean, Travis Kelce is basically Mahomes' security blanket. And you can look here. Last season, Kelce had over a quarter of Mahomes' completions. Of his total completions, Travis Kelce had over 1/4 of them. Not only that, in the totality of the Chiefs' first downs, rushing, passing, whatever you want to say, Travis Kelce contributed almost 1/5 of the entirety of the Chiefs' first downs. So Travis Kelce's impact on the Chiefs' offense cannot be, overlooked. And last night was a perfect example of it, where basically, the Chiefs couldn't do anything. Mahomes was the leading rusher. They couldn't get the run game going. And I want to talk about this controversy because I do not think it was really, talked about, especially early on, until that ref that they bring in, the leading ref that maybe was a former executive of referees. I want to bring you in on this. I don't know if you saw this. That top ref for the NBC broadcast said Jawan Taylor, the right tackle, had probably 30 illegal formations where he was so far back on the line. And the rule is that the helmet of the right tackle needs to be in line with the waist of the center. Jawan Taylor was sometimes nowhere near that point. And not only that, he false started on several occasions that weren't called until 2 minutes left in the entirety of the game. He got his first false start in the entire game. And also there was a costly, I believe it was a holding or a false start on Donovan Smith. And if you watched any Bucs games from last year, he was the most penalized offensive lineman last year. So to me, that was not shocking, to say the least. But I want to know, did you even see that play that Jawan Taylor, throughout most of the game, was illegally lined up on that right side?
They showed him, and he was kind of jiggling his leg. It was kind of odd looking. I mean, he did line up kind of far back, and he had a funny stance, and he was jiggling his leg. I don't know whether you call that a false start or not. But, I can see why people were upset about it, and it's odd that he did this basically the same thing all the way through the game, and then they only started calling it when it got close to the end of the game. I don't understand that.
It was a bad time, and what was smart about, I'm very, very impressed with the Lions defense. Late in the game, it was the 32nd ranked defense from last year that stepped up big. Now, I guarantee they won't be the 32nd ranked defense this year. They added a number of pieces there. I believe it was a first-round pick, Jack Campbell, the linebacker. He had an incredible pass block, a pass breakup. He dove for the ball and knocked it away. But the defense was incredible. It was shocking. And what was smart was that originally Aiden Hutchinson was going one-on-one with Jawan Taylor. He was on the outside. And he got beat the entire time because Jawan Taylor was false starting and he was lined up far back, which gave him an extreme advantage against that Detroit Lions pass rush. So what they did was they moved him inside. So now instead of working on the tackle who is sort of, cheating basically, I'm not going to say full-blown cheating, but essentially giving the Chiefs an advantage, they moved him inside against the guard, and that's where we saw Aiden Hutchinson absolutely explode with the pass protect or the pass rush. So I was incredibly impressed with how the Lions played defensively, and Jared Goff came up big late in the game with a 3rd and 12 to, I believe it's Josh Richardson or Josh, what's his name? Josh Reynolds, sorry. A couple big completions late in the game. And, I'm surprised the Lions put it away. It's very different than what we've seen from the Lions in the past, where they didn't know how to win. And that's why I said Dan Campbell, Coach Theory's teaching the Lions how to win, bringing energy, to the Lions, and I think it's very, very important that this is how you start the season with a big win.
I thought it was interesting. Campbell said after the game, they asked him, "Well, what did you learn?" He said, "I didn't learn anything. It was everything that I already knew was confirmed."
Right.
Which I thought was a pretty good comment, really positive for his players.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the question, did the Lions win or did the Chiefs lose it? I'm going to say it's probably 60% Chiefs lost because the drops were a killer. But I think the Lions stepped up when it mattered late in the game. And besides, I'm not going to say it was all about the drops because actually there was a large part of the game where the Chiefs were at an advantage, at least from blocking the pass rush, with Jawan Taylor illegally lining up and false starting on a lot of plays there. And also Marvin Jones Jr. from the Lions. He was having difficulty as well. There were a couple passes there.
He played terrible.
Yeah, and also I'll also say this. I was looking closely. They were potentially there. I know there was one dropped interception. That was, I think, on the 4th and 20 pass or the 4th and 25 pass very, very late in the game that C.J. Gardner-Johnson could have intercepted the ball. But there were probably 3 other opportunities besides the Brian Branch interception where that went for a pick 6 where the Lions could have intercepted Mahomes. There were a few times where it was just in the reach. If they looked a certain way or if they caught the actual ball, Mahomes could have easily had 3 interceptions on the day. And this was actually Mahomes' first Week 1 loss, and this was he had his first interception in Week 1 in this game. So
I thought Jared Goff played very well. And
he played very, very safe, which is good.
Yeah,
very, very good.
And, he was let go by the Rams. They lost faith in him. They may be regretting that. I mean, Jared Goff had a very good season last year. He's off to a great start this year. I think the Lions have a lot brighter future right now than the Rams seem to.
Absolutely.
They seem to have a lot more skill. The skill players seem to be better. They seem to have a better defense now. So I was surprised. I picked the Chiefs to win. I was surprised the Lions beat them, but I think it was deserved.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm going to be excited to see the Lions going forward because there were points where the Lions were saying, Chiefs, pull away right now. Like I said, each drive, punt, fumble, punt, turnover on downs, punt, and then the touchdown late, and then another turnover on downs on a 4th and 2, where if Jared Goff just looked to his left, there was an entire half of the field wide open that he could have taken, but he threw it to the right and it got batted down. So the Lions were really saying, Chiefs, just pull away finally.
Yeah. What'd you think about the fake punt on down on inside the 20-yard line early in the game?
I think I really commend teams that take calculated risks, that take calculated big swings. And I was actually shocked because
that led to a touchdown. They scored a touchdown on that.
No, and that's what I mean.
After they did it. Yeah.
Dan Campbell and the Lions basically said, we're going to come out here and we're going to win this game. There's nothing that's going to stop us. We're going to come out here. And that's why I think Dan Campbell said, we expected to win. So he already knew what was happening. He already believed in him, in his team and in his coaching staff that they could get the job done. And they ended up doing it perfectly. So Lions take game 1. Mahomes' first Week 1 loss of his career. The Chiefs, I'm sure, are going to bounce back. But, of course, we'll have to wait and see. This might be a funky year. But Jared Goff and the Lions on a hot start. The Chiefs not looking too good, but Travis Kelce will be back sooner rather than later.
And probably Chris Jones, too.
Absolutely. Of course, though. Contracts. People want that money. Let's get into our next topic. So this news actually broke right before the game, and it's that Joe Burrow has now become the highest paid player in NFL history, signing a 5-year, $275 million contract with $219 million fully guaranteed. Not as much as Deshaun Watson still. No one has broke that yet. However,
$55 million a year,
still
not
a
bad.
lot of money. On average, he's making $2.5 million more than Justin Herbert, who previously broke the record. So I don't know, what is your reaction to Joe Burrow becoming the highest paid player per year?
To be last. Pays to be last, right? Jalen Hurts was first, he got 51. Lamar Jackson was second, he got 52. Justin Herbert was third, he got 52 and a half. Joe Burrow was fourth, and he got 55. What do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to get next season? He can't sign one until then. I bet he'll wind up being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL or the highest paid player in history. I do think Joe Burrow's worth it, more so than some of the others, I think, particularly Deshaun Watson. I think Joe Burrow, he earned it. He's taken some big hits. Their offensive line has been poor, so poor that you would say maybe they shouldn't be in the playoffs some of these years that they made it. It's because of Joe Burrow. Some games in the playoffs not last year, but the year before, he had 9 sacks in one game, and they still won. So I think that guy is very gutsy. I think he earned a big contract. They say the Bengals are worth $3.5 billion, so paying him $275 million for 5 years, I think is a good investment.
I'll say this about, Joe Burrow. He's doing stuff that, Bengals Nation hasn't seen in a long time. He took them to their first playoff game since 2015 back in 2021. He brought them to their first Super Bowl since 1988. Now, he could have led them to the first Super Bowl win, probably in the history of the Bengals. But sadly, no, he couldn't get it done. He was actually about a half second away if the offensive line held up. Like people have pointed out on social media, Jamar Chase was about to break free from Jalen Ramsey, I believe, right down the field late in that game, and he would have been gone for a touchdown.
You can argue there was a bad call there near the end, too.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, it was a hold from the middle linebacker Wilson, and we covered that. I remember that show. We covered that extensively. I called that the Phantom Hold. Good times in the Harvey Hour. But when it comes to this, I think it's an incredibly smart move. However, it will come with its challenges. The first would be T. Higgins' contract is up this year. He'll be an unrestricted free agent entering 2024. He's also looking for a big payday. And also, you got to remember this guy, Jamar Chase, also is looking for a massive contract. So my guess would be, because Joe Burrow is becoming the highest paid player right now in the NFL, T. Higgins will be gone next season. I guarantee you they'll focus primarily on building the offensive line. They obviously just paid Joe Burrow and getting Jamar Chase so that they could have that LSU connection together, and T. Higgins will be the odd man out. Because I really see no scenario unless you're going to sacrifice the offensive line, which is already poor. I mean, the piece is there. You got a couple Pro Bowlers there, and signing Orlando Brown Jr. was an incredibly great move, and we saw yesterday the Chiefs could have used him at least instead of Donovan Smith late in that game. But you also got Alex Kappa from the Bucs. He was a Pro Bowler. You got a few pieces that are really, really good on the offensive line. Just last year, they didn't live up to their status. Now you have Orlando Brown Jr. that should, bolster that offensive line even more. But if you're going to try to sign all 3 players, which I find very, very hard, you already signed Joe Burrow. If you're thinking about signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, your defense is going to suffer. And that's something that I do not think the Bengals should do. T. Higgins, he's a very, very good option at number 3, or I guess number 2 if Tyler Boyd at number 3. But it's really about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. You can get that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, other in another draft, or get it from maybe Tyler Lockett, maybe out the door soon from Seattle. If JSN really steps up, the Seahawks could think about moving Tyler Lockett. That's just an option. But I do think in order to afford everybody they're looking for, and to sign Jamar Chase probably to that big contract that he's looking for, that I think he deserves right now, you're going to need to give up T. Higgins, and I don't think you could have all 3 receivers on that team.
Well, that's the issue. That's the issue when there's a hard salary cap, right? You give a big contract to your quarterback. Some of the other pieces you're going to have to sacrifice, and you're probably right. T. Higgins probably is on his way out. They don't want to sacrifice the offensive line because they just invested $275 million in Joe Burrow, so they want to have him standing upright. And so having a decent offensive line is very important, and Jamar Chase is a superstar, so I think they want to hang on to him, and they won't be able to give all 3 of those guys big contracts.
So, I mean, at face value, you got your franchise quarterback for at least the next 5 years. He's making $55 million a year on average. I mean, he's probably. I mean, I've seen basically every single list say that he's the second best quarterback in the league. And I mean, and hell, he's probably the closest to beating Patrick Mahomes, and he's caused Mahomes the most trouble. He's going 3-1 and outplayed Mahomes in 3 out of their 4 games. So the fact that, in the AFC, which is the harder conference, he's in a hard division with Lamar Jackson always creeping up behind him, and that team's getting better with a brand new OC and new weapons. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's doing stuff that the Bengals nation has not seen in near a decade, and he's continuing that success over and over and over again.
Yeah, if he continues it, he's still pretty young.
Absolutely.
Right? 5 years go by, he'll be aligned for another great big contract.
And I guarantee you,
if he plays
3
well,
years,
he's got the incentive.
Yeah, absolutely. Give this 3-4 years. That contract's going to look, not as big. We thought Mahomes signing a 10-year, $500 million contract was crazy. He's making right now $45 million a year. I think he's, the 7th or 8th highest paid quarterback? He's probably going to be making a bunch of money, and he may be the first one to pass Deshaun Watson in most guaranteed money. And you know what? He deserves it. 2 Super Bowls, several AFC championship games. I mean, what he's doing is incredible. So,
still got a ways to go before he gets to a new contract. It's a 10-year deal.
They'll restructure that so he's making more money. I think the Chiefs would do that. Just a testament to what Mahomes is for Kansas City and honestly for the NFL in general. But I do think it's very, very important that you solidify a few positions. It's quarterback. It's you guys secure offensive line. Most of them are right-handed throwers, so your left tackle is probably the most important one. He's your blind side blocker, and I would say a receiver, a weapon, a piece to throw it to. Those are the 3 positions on offense you have to secure. And you know what? All they have to do is sign Jamar Chase to a long-term deal. You already got the quarterback. Maybe you give Orlando Brown Jr. He continues with the Bengals, and he would be your crucial offensive line piece. So I don't know. This is a good move for the Bengals. Good move for Cincinnati. And Joe Burrow has now become a very, very rich man, which is always, what quarterbacks and what players and what athletes are looking for. Let's get into our next topic here. So we're talking some college football blending in with some NFL because this is very, very interesting. So Caleb Williams' father, Carl Williams, told GQ magazine that Caleb Williams could stay in college for another year if the first pick is not a team that is in a perfect situation. This is what he had to say on GQ magazine. The funky thing about the NFL draft process is he'd almost be better off not being drafted than being drafted first. The system is completely backwards. The way the system is constructed, you go to the worst possible situation, the worst possible team, the worst organization in the league, because of their desire for parity, gets the first pick. So it's the gift and the curse. I mean, it's a very, very true statement. I mean,
it's a true statement, but So I disagree with what he says. Okay,
really?
And I think Caleb Williams hanging out in college another year just risks a year when he could get injured. Generally, the worst team is going to be the one that gets the chance to pick you. So why does he think he'd be any better off 2 years from now than the end of this year? It's probably going to be one of the worst teams again. That's just the way he's right. That's the way it's structured. And you know what? If you're really into it and you want to be, a world beater out there and come out with the great attitude, you'd say, you know what? I'm going to that team and I'm going to make a difference for them. Instead of saying, you know what? I want to be with the best team. I don't want to be with one of the worst ones. If you're the best player out there, you can go to the worst team and make them better. How about that for a mindset?
Well, we take a look at a situation like maybe Archie Manning, and then I believe Carl Williams talked to Archie Manning about the situation. He went to the Saints and was abysmal. He never was able to get out of that situation.
That was a long time. That was a long time ago.
Well, let's do a more recent one. Eli Manning refused to play with the San Diego Chargers. Refused. He got traded to the Giants. He forced his way out of San Diego, and they did the Phillip Rivers Eli Manning trade swap there. So what I'm saying is, yeah, he may, declare for the draft at the end of the season. He will be the number 1 pick, but he could pull an Eli Manning and say, I refuse to play with the projected team is the Cardinals. So I refuse to play for the Cardinals because, hey, truthfully, I don't think a lot of, quarterbacks, I mean, Kyler Murray, we had the whole situation with Kyler Murray, coaches and GMs and even some players, they were, talking, some trash about Kyler Murray. The contract, he had to do 4 hours a week studying the film, and there were rumors out there that said that they might shut him down for the season. Now those have been debunked, but there were rumors talking about that. So I really think, I think a lot of players, when determining whether or not to declare, I think it's about monetary value. How much money are you going to make? But the NIL right now, it gets you as close to the NFL money, rookie NFL money, as it possibly can. So if Caleb Williams wants to stay in college one more year, I think he'll be making, a decent amount of money. But, the NFL is the NFL is the big stage. It's the biggest stage. And it's the by far the largest sport in America.
His smart move would be to, if he's going to go number 1 at the end of this year, he should go. I think.
Would you say just suck
even
it up
if it's
and play for the
even if
Cardinals?
it's the Arizona Cardinals? The Arizona Cardinals have had some good years, right? I don't think they're. They were in the playoffs the year before last, right? Kyler Murray got hurt this past year. It's not like they had a terrible team. They did make the playoffs. They didn't play well in the playoff game they were in, but that happens, So I don't say look at a team and say they're horrible just because they got the first pick. Well, they can follow. They fall on some bad times, have some injuries, have a bunch of different things happen. It doesn't mean that it's a bad franchise. The only one I would say is the Cleveland Browns. I really can't get over them. I got to say, most of these other teams they rebound over time. The Browns have been awful for so long. It's just amazing, and the bad decisions they've made, I can't get over. That is one where I think a management team, which they've turned over a number of times here, has really botched it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's why I nicknamed them the Cleveland Clowns, of just how many bad decisions they've made. When it comes to this, though, it isn't just about the fact that the Cardinals may be the worst team, on paper, talking about, records. They were graded the worst team overall. Like, they were graded like an F- in some categories. That's how bad they were. Like, just talking about what players think of the team. So the fact that they were graded an F- and they were graded like culture-wise as an F-, basically, inside the organization an F. I mean, think about this, right? One coach, Urban Meyer, right? We're talking about Trevor Lawrence now, was the best high school player, best college player, generational talent. He comes in, Urban Meyer's the head coach, not even just a bad organization, not just a bad owner or a bad GM, just one bad coach. Trevor Lawrence looks bad, really bad. Goes like 3-13 bad. I mean, we got like Mac Jones and Davis Mills was a better quarterback in Trevor Lawrence's rookie year than Trevor Lawrence was. I mean, that's how bad one coach could be. Now think about if it's an entire organization that's graded poorly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Arizona went out and got a new coach.
They did?
Right. So give them credit for that. They gave up on Kingsbury, and they went out and got a new coach. So I don't think that you can – I mean, they're going to be poor this year. I have them rated last in their division, and I don't think they're going to win that many games. But it doesn't mean that they can't rebound, and they do. Some of that is done through the draft and clever free agency pickups. So – I wouldn't. I think it's. I don't agree with Caleb Williams' father. I think that generally 32 teams in the NFL, aside from the Cleveland Browns,
so
31 teams are class acts, and they're trying hard to do the best they can to make the playoffs and be consistently good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but I do think I'm not saying we will. I think it's more than likely that we could see Caleb Williams just if the Cardinals draft him say, I'm good. Trade me for anything you got. And if here's the thing, if they truly believe in Kyler Murray, they'll trade the pick. They'll trade the pick to a team that needs a quarterback. If the Cardinals really believe Kyler Murray is their guy, they may not
wind up having the first pick. We'll see.
They may go for Marvin Harrison.
Who knows?
Jr.
They may be surprised. They may be a surprise and win more games than we think. We'll see.
That could be true. But if they do get the first pick and they believe in Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison could be the first wide receiver drafted first overall since Keyshawn Johnson. So I mean, there you go. They may have the first pick, but if they believe in Kyler, it won't be Caleb Williams, which I think will be
right. So maybe they trade down. Maybe they trade down and pick up a couple of first round picks or. Yeah. Pick up a first and a second, or a first this year and later in the round, and a first next year. I mean, if they think Caleb Williams is really that good, and somebody wants to trade up for him,
right?
But who would trade up for him? A team that really needs a quarterback, but probably won't be considered by Caleb Williams' father to be that good. I don't know. That's weird. It
is a weird situation.
What he said.
But I do think that you make a good point, though. The Cardinals could get a lot. I mean, just think of what the Bears got for their first overall pick this year. Yeah. They got a good wide receiver. They got a lot of draft assets.
The 49ers gave up to get Trey Lance.
Oh my! And that was only for the third pick. The third pick. So I don't know. It's crazy, but it's an interesting situation. But we'll obviously have to
look what the Panthers gave up to get Bryce Young.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
It was a lot. All right, so coming up, Sean Payton takes a shot at his quarterback in hopes that he could relight a fire that seemed to be put out last year. And also, we make our first picks of the NFL season, the full 32 picks, well, I guess minus 2 teams because we picked Thursday. We talk about that, and also it's the return of the Harvey Hot Hand, all that and more right after this.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. So it seems like there's something that could be brewing in Denver with Sean Payton taking a shot at his quarterback, Russell Wilson, by saying this. He told Wilson that to salvage his career, he needed to focus less on Russ Inc. Will you, expletive, stop kissing all the babies? You're not running for public office. That was from Seth Wickersham, who, I think he's wrote a couple things about Brady and Belichick, if I'm not mistaken. But he's basically, saying that Sean Payton said, hey, it ain't about you. It ain't about you. It's about the team now. So I want to know, do you like that Sean Payton is taking a shot and making these comments about his quarterback?
No, I don't. I think that I don't think it's a problem if you want to criticize your quarterback in private. But why is he putting it out in public? Why isn't this something that's kept behind closed doors? I don't understand that. I think it's because Sean Payton's worried that if he bombs there, that they could wind up canning him, and rather than having that happen, he's going to put it all on Russell Wilson. So if the offense doesn't play well, it's not Sean Payton's fault; it's Russell Wilson's fault. So I don't like the way he's going about this. He took some pot shots at the former head coach and Nathaniel Hackett. I think that was in poor taste as well. So I don't know why he's doing this. I think he's doing it to kind of protect himself. That's how I kind of look at it. He's protecting himself. If things go bad, it's not his fault. It's the prior culture that was there that he couldn't quite get turned around in 1 year, and it's Russell Wilson's fault. Well, I think it's bad. It's a bad way to go about it.
I think, honestly, that Sean Payton thinks he's safe because Nathaniel Hackett got fired last season for how poor of a job he did, and Russell Wilson played terrible. So if Russell Wilson plays terrible again, and his head coach is a guy that made Drew Brees a significant, first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down Hall of Famer, and not only that, made quarterbacks like Jameis Winston go from 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns to starting off the year, 14 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions, starting off as a potential, dark horse MVP candidate that year, then it has to be on Russell Wilson. It's the same thing with Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray decides, to decide, go back to playing video games instead of studying film or whatever the case may be, he already got Cliff Kingsbury fired. The next one is going to be on him. He's going to be the one that's gone. Same thing with Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson comes out and has another bad year, like I sort of project, he's not going to have a great year, but if he has, an okay to bad year, it won't be on Sean Payton. This will be on Russell Wilson. The only problem I have with this is the fact that Sean Payton may be stepping over a line that I guess it shouldn't not be crossed, but it's unnecessary because Sean Payton, I guess, is trying to change who Russell Wilson is. Russell Wilson has been Russell Wilson for years. It's just the fact that he was a great quarterback at the time where he was, making it to playoffs and having over 100 pass rating or whatever the case may be. What Sean Payton should be doing is focusing on changing the football player, not the personality of Russ. Now, if that becomes toxic, if that becomes really toxic, then there's where you could have a sit down with him. But, the toxicity is not something, at least that I have heard, that's leaking through the locker room. However, what Sean Payton should be focusing on is the fact that you got to raise Russell Wilson from being, a terrible quarterback into, back in winning Russ mode and let Russ cook.
You know what? I give Russell Wilson credit for the way he's handled this so far. He hasn't said anything. And he's lost 15 pounds, I understand. He's gotten himself into better shape. I think he's going to be trying really hard this year. I think that it's good if Sean Payton feels this way and he wants to say something about to Russell about it. I think that's fine. I just don't like the way he did it and letting it get out into the public. And I think that we'll wait and see how the season. This will all play out a little different in a way that will either be good or bad depending on how they play.
Right.
And if they get going and they start winning games, then there isn't going to be anything said. It's going to be, they'll play on, and you won't hear much of this. If it goes bad, and then it's all going to be Sean Payton set it up, so it's all going to be on Russell Wilson.
And you know what? I think that's the way it should be, because Russell Wilson was something. He comes to Denver, bombs. I think most people put most of it on Nathaniel Hackett. So he's gone now. Now you're bringing in a tremendous coach in Sean Payton. It has to be on Russ. It has to be, because you already got one coach fired, and he played terrible that year as well. So if he has another bad year,
I think
you can't put it on Payton.
You know what? I think Drew Brees was a good quarterback before he got to he was a good quarterback in San Diego.
But he was nothing like he was in New Orleans.
That had something to do with the pieces that were around him too, I think. So I do think Sean Payton is a very good coach, and I think he has made quarterbacks better under his system. I just don't like the way he's putting it out in public and criticizing Russell Wilson's personality. I don't think that's appropriate.
I think it's fair. It is weird coming from, a well-respected coach, for him, slamming an NFL employee like he did, and now coming at his own quarterback. It's different if it's an anonymous quote or an anonymous head coach or whatever the case may be making this comment. No, Sean Payton is publicly coming out here and saying this.
He wound up apologizing to Nathaniel Hackett for what he said.
He ripped him. Like, it was.
I know. It was ridiculous.
The worst coaching job in NFL history, I think he said.
That's uncalled for.
I guarantee you there's been worse than when Nat Hackett did. I mean, Urban Meyer the previous year.
Yeah, right.
Did anyone forget what he did?
He was in a strip joint.
Yeah, so... I mean, and I think he's doing college football now, if I'm not mistaken. He's part of like the college football analysts.
He's had issues. That guy.
I'm surprised he didn't go back to college coaching.
Maybe
no university wanted him. Maybe no college wanted him. All right, so it is time. We did this all of last year. It's now reinvented. It's reinvented now for season 4. By the way, this is the first episode of season 4 of the Harvey Hour. The next 5 months or so, we will be dissecting each team. The Harvey Hot Hand is coming back, but it is time now for our Week 1 picks. I will start for this Week 1, so let's begin. So my first pick, obviously, with the Lions, I picked them plus 6.5 at the time, or I guess it moved all the way to plus 4.5 when Travis Kelce went down. So that turned out to be right. The next one I got is the Falcons minus 3.5. So DJ Chark is now out. They already lost DJ Moore. So the next man up probably would have been DJ Chark. He's out for now. So I think the Falcons, with that run game, I understand that the Panthers defense is very underrated. And with Brian Burns on that defensive front, it's going to be difficult. However, the Falcons last season had a top 5 offensive line. They had the highest rated run blocking guard, Bijan Robinson in the backfield, Cordell Patterson in the backfield, Algier in the backfield. You have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. I mean, you have weapons there. This is going to be a run-heavy team, and I expect the Falcons to run all over the Panthers. And if they get a decent pass rush, we saw in the preseason the Jets storm that Panthers offensive line. It was basically a sieve. So I think the Falcons will come out here and win by 3.5. The next one's obvious. The Ravens at minus 9.5. That's an easy one. Lamar's upgraded at weapons. Offensive line improved on defense. I mean, the Texans, we don't know what they look like. C.J. Stroud did not look all that great in his preseason. However, he improved slightly. He still looks nervous coming out against the Ravens and that dynamic offense. The Texans also have a bunch of new weapons, receivers-wise. They have brand new quarterback C.J. Stroud, brand new head coach. You have a lot of pieces that are new, and going up against the Ravens, who are very well run. I mean, John Harbaugh. Now you have Todd Monken, a great offense coordinator back in college. You have Lamar Jackson, upgraded weapons, upgraded veteran weapons. You also have rookie Zay Flowers there. I think the Ravens are going to stomp on the Texans. Let's go with the next one, the shocker. Probably, I only have, 2 upsets, including the Lions. This is my only other upset, and that is indeed the Cleveland Browns beating out the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to dive straight into this because I'm going to do it for my Harvey Hot Hand. Spoiler alert. However, I really think Joe Burrow, he's coming back from an injury. I guarantee you he's not 100%. And I just think Myles Garrett, pass rush, it hasn't been all that great for Joe Burrow against the against the Browns, and especially in Week 1. The next one, Jaguars, Colts. Colts, brand new team, brand new head coach, brand new quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, they only have a few receivers on their depth chart. So if one of them gets dinged, you're going to be just decreasing that the amount of receivers on your team because it's not looking too good. And besides, you don't have Jonathan Taylor. That is big. He's out for the first 4 weeks. We have a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson on the Jaguars side. You add Calvin Ridley to Christian Kirk. Evan Ingram looked really, really good. And, of course, you have the prince that was promised in Trevor Lawrence. I think this team is going to be really, really good. I have them winning and covering the -5 spread. The Bucs and Baker Mayfield going up against the Minnesota Vikings. This is strictly just because of Baker Mayfield's your quarterback. I do not trust Baker Mayfield. Your offensive line was terrible. You had no run game last season. Your pass defense has been terrible for a number of years, or at least very underwhelming. Your rushing defense, that was Todd Bowles' big, motivation and push when Brady was there. They had like the first rush defense for a number of years. That actually took a big hit last season. So if you don't have, your claim to fame on defense, you have Baker Mayfield at quarterback going up against, Christian Darrisaw on the offensive line. Yes, you did get rid of Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison's good enough, I guess. Kirk Cousins is efficient. You still have Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in football. And not only that, you have a brand new rookie receiver in Jordan Addison, who is going to be a very, very explosive receiver for you. I got the Vikings covering and winning that spread -5.5. The Saints are the number one easiest schedule, and you start off with an unknown, really big unknown question mark with Ryan Tannehill. You're bringing back Derrick Henry. The offensive line of the Titans is a big question mark. It's a work in progress. Although they do have D-Hop, outside of D-Hop, you don't really have that much. Treylon Burks is okay, not that great. Your defense is pretty good. I think it's underrated. However, I don't like it. I think the Saints right now, with the way they set up, Michael Thomas is back. You got Chris Olave back. Your offensive line is pretty good. I understand you don't have Alvin Kamara. He's suspended. I do think with that DV, you also lost a few defensive pieces. I just think the Saints are a better team than the Titans. I'll take the Saints to win and cover. The next one, a lot of people are picking the Steelers. I'm not. I believe in Brock Purdy, at least for now. What he has shown is when he's healthy, when he starts and finishes games, he's undefeated. People are saying he's better than Jimmy G. I thought last season he was actually slightly better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but that's an argument for a different day. The defense, they added pieces. Nick Bosa's back. You got Hargrave. I'm a little bit concerned about your cornerbacks, but I'm not that concerned. So this pass rush up against a questionable offensive line of the Steelers. Kenny Pickett, will he be Kenny Pick-em-off, as I called him last season? I'm not sure, but I hope so because I have the 49ers winning and covering a very, very close -2.5 spread. The next one, the Cardinals are the worst team in football, going up against the Commanders and Sam Howell. I'm surprised the spread is as big as it is, but I think, Vegas really believes in Sam Howell and then Terry McLaurin and Dotson as well. So I'm going to take the Commanders to win big here. Here's something that's interesting. We talked about this on the show before. Can the Packers keep their reign of dominance over the Chicago Bears? I'm saying, at least for week 1, no, they can't. I think Justin Fields will run the ball over a defense that I don't think is all that great. Also, you added DJ Moore. When you traded back that first-round pick, traded to the Panthers, you got DJ Moore in that trade. What we saw in the preseason is you could dink and dunk behind the line of scrimmage to DJ Moore, and he will light you up. He will, bob and weave through the defense. Not only that, Khalil Herbert also is a okay to pretty good running back. I don't trust the offensive line all that much, but I think it'll be good enough for the Bears to just slip by the Packers and cover that 1-point spread. The next one, the Denver Broncos, the Raiders. I do not like the Raiders. Chandler Jones is dealing with the team versus Chandler Jones issue, blasting all over social media. He won't play in week 1. Although, yes, I understand they do have Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. I think Pat Surtain was the second-best cornerback, at least graded-wise, last season. I think it'll be interesting, him versus Devontae Adams, how that power dynamic works, who will come out on top of that. But Jimmy G is the big question mark here. Can he stay healthy behind probably one of the worst offensive lines? And besides, not only that, Russell Wilson is going up against what used to be the 30th-ranked secondary in the NFL. Will Russ cook? I'm saying yes, and they win and cover the -3.5-point spread. Here's an interesting one. Pick 5 versus pick 6, and I believe it was the 2020 NFL Draft. I thought one of these quarterbacks, being Justin Herbert, I campaigned for the Miami Dolphins to draft Herbert over Tua strictly on the basis of the fact that Tua has an injury history, which we've seen since he entered the NFL. Now I think Herbert gets the best of the Dolphins by beating them and covering the -3-point spread with an upgrade at receiver. You still have Keenan Allen. You still have Mike Williams. Now you add Quentin Johnston to that wide receiver core. Khalil Mack is on that team. Joey Bosa is on that team. Derwin James is on that team. J.C. Jackson's back. You also have Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, on paper, the Chargers are a phenomenal team. And honestly, you could probably put them one-on-one with the Chiefs, and if they just perform as they, if you look at them on a piece of paper and they perform as they do, as they look on that piece of paper, the Chargers are going to be a force to reckon with in the NFL, and I think that starts in Week 1 and covers that -3 points spread. I know Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, upgraded defense. Jalen Ramsey's out for most of the season, but Bradley Chubb is still a good pass rusher. I think with Rashawn Slater coming back, the Chargers take over and cover that 3-point spread. Here's one that's interesting. The Eagles are only 4-point favorites against the Patriots. That is shocking to me. I don't understand it. The Eagles have a great defense. The Patriots have a crippled, injured offensive line. You have Calvin Anderson starting at right tackle because Riley Reif is on the IR. There was actually a moment where City So could have been starting there. And if that was the case, I guarantee you I would have picked the Eagles minus, 10.5 if that were the case. City So was basically like a non-lineman. He wasn't even existing, at least in the preseason. And that was against backups and third stringers. Now, Calvin Anderson, who didn't get much playing time or really any playing time, I think, in the preseason, he'll be going up against, some very, very tough rushers. You're also going up against Jalen Carter. The Eagles have the best offensive line. They have Devontae Smith. They have A.J. Brown. I mean, this team is good. I believe you also have DeAndre Swift as well. You also have, let's not forget, Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I don't like Jonathan Jones being your number one cornerback. You have Christian Gonzalez, who's a rookie. I think he'll get cooked a couple times by either Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, depending on who he's covering. Probably it's going to be Devontae Smith. They also have Dallas Goedert, the tight end. I mean, the Eagles, there's not many places where you could, sort of throw a dart and say they're not great there. They also brought back Darius Slay, which is a big piece of their defense. So they also lost Hargrave, but I do not think that'll impact them, at least against the Patriots, as much as it would maybe down the road against better teams. I'll take the Eagles to win and cover -4. Rams Seahawks. Originally, before Cooper Kupp got hurt, I had the Rams winning and covering in this game. Now, Cooper Kupp may get put on IR as soon as today or tomorrow, maybe even tomorrow, but he may get put on IR. I don't love this. I really, really don't like this. The Seahawks, they have 3 really good receivers now. They have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. Their offensive line is being upgraded. They have 2 really good defensive backs, rookie Devin Witherspoon. They also have Tariq Woolen. Also, you brought back Bobby Wagner. Your defensive line is getting better and better each year. The Seahawks in recent drafts haven't really missed. I'll take the Seahawks to win and cover the -5-point spread. Cowboys, -3.5 against the Giants. I will take the Cowboys to win here. Daniel Jones has not been that great against the Cowboys. I believe, if I have the numbers right, he's 1-6 against the Cowboys in his career. He's also not that great in prime time at the 8:20 games. So I will take the Cowboys with their defensive front up against a good but rebuilding offensive line. There's a few question marks on that Giants offensive line, but they are improving. I just think that defensive front is going to be dangerous against a Giants offensive line. And let's not forget, Stephon Gilmore and, Trayvon Diggs, the 2 cornerbacks going up against who? Sterling Shepard and, Darius Slayton. Jalen Hyatt may get, a bit of energy. We also saw Darren Waller today. He's questionable with the hamstring injury. The normal Darren Waller strikes again with injuries. That was the big concern because Darren Waller had to be put on the sidelines during practice because Daniel Jones would just be throwing it to Darren Waller. So if he's going to be out or at least not be 100% in this game, we can see Daniel Jones go back to the Daniel Jones of before where he was considered a bust, and probably the Giants should have moved off him. But we'll have to wait and see. I'll take the Cowboys to win and cover -3.5-point spread. And the big game, New York versus New York. Although the Giants are also a New York team, but technically the Giants and the Jets both play in New Jersey, regardless of the fact. The Buffalo Bills are going to win this game. I think the offensive line of the Jets is a huge question mark. Mekhi Becton, will he even be healthy enough to go in the second quarter or maybe even the second half? That's the big question mark. How healthy will Mekhi Becton be? Your center isn't all that great. Elijah Vera Tucker is probably your best offensive lineman. Dwayne Brown's 38 years old, going up against a pretty good pass rush from the Bills. I understand Von Miller's out. However, I think you brought back your 2 defensive backs, and Micah Hyde and Poyer. I mean, I really think the Bills are going to do some damage here, and I understand Stephon Diggs going up against Sauce Gardner is going to be an interesting situation, but I think the Bills will win and cover the -2.5-point spread. Those are my picks. We'll talk about the Harvey hot hand after this, but let's jump into your picks for this week.
Okay. So I agree with a lot of what you said, and they have a very good analysis there on most of your picks. I disagree with you on a few, but for the most part, I'm agreeing with you, except I lost the first one here. The Chiefs didn't win, and I should have probably thought, well, when Travis Kelce got hurt, that was going to disrupt things, and sure enough, it did. And that was, I think, a big reason why they lost. So moving on to the Falcons and the Panthers, I'm picking the Falcons. I think the first game for Bryce Young is going to have the butterflies really bad. He's going to be really nervous. I think it's going to be tough for him. I do think he's going to be a very good quarterback down the road, but this is going to be his first NFL start, and I think it will be hard for him. I think the Falcons last year, they showed that they had, they won 8 games, so I think that they are not that bad, and I think they're weak at quarterback, I think, but they're going to have a good running game. They drafted Bijan Robinson, and they have a good offensive line, so I think the quarterback there is going to be a game manager, and they're going to rely on the run and rely on the strength of their defense and the mistakes that Bryce Young is going to make. So I have the Falcons winning and covering. The Ravens against the Texans, again, a similar situation with C.J. Stroud, his first NFL start. Will Anderson, his first NFL start. I think it's going to be tough for the Texans, and I do think they'll be a good team down the road. I think they made the right moves, putting the 2 foundation players in place and they'll be building around them, but it's not going to happen this year, and they'll have some good draft picks again next year probably, because I don't think they're going to win many games, and I have the Ravens beating them pretty badly and covering the 10-point point spread. I like the Bengals over the Browns, even though Joe Burrow hasn't played, didn't play much and didn't play at all in the preseason and hurt his calf. He's recovered now, and he'll be playing in this game. And that the juice of that brand new contract, I think, he's going to be feeling it. And I think the Bengals will cover the point spread 2.5 and win the game on the road. The Jaguars at the Colts. I think the Colts are probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. I think the Jaguars are resurgent, starting halfway through last year. They rallied around Trevor Lawrence improving, and Doug Peterson being a great coach, a great quarterbacks coach. I think they're going to see more of that this year. I think I picked the Jaguars to win the division this year. I think they'll cover the 5-point point spread and win the game. Bucks at the Vikings. I think I picked the Bucks to be last in their division this year. They lost Tom Brady, replaced him with Baker Mayfield. That's pretty bad. And I think that the Vikings have Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins is one of the top 10 quarterbacks. They're at home. I think they win and cover. The Saints and the Titans at the Saints. I think it's going to be a very close game. I do think the Saints will win and cover only because they're at home. And I think the Titans, they had a bad season last year. They only won 7 games. They started out okay, and then injuries got to them. And they've recovered from those injuries. They do have that running game, which has been an NFL best for a number of years now. So they could win this game. I think this one's going to be very close. I'm picking the Saints only because they're at home. 49ers at the Steelers, I think that could be a very close game, too. I think Kenny Pickett showed great strides in his first year, and I think he'll continue that growth and improvement, and he's showing leadership now. So I think the Steelers are an up-and-coming team. They always have a good defense. I think the 49ers are one of the best teams in the league. I do think Brock Purdy is the real deal. Given the way he started his NFL career last year, winning 5 in a row, the only reason, and winning in the playoffs, the only reason they lost the NFC Championship game, I think, was because he got hurt early in the game and couldn't really play. So I think the 49ers will win that game and cover the 2.5 point spread. Cardinals at the Commanders. Again, I don't think either of these teams are that good. I pick them both to be last in their division. However, I think the Cardinals are worse than the Commanders. The Commanders have a good coach. I think the Cardinals, is to be seen how good their coach is going to be. It's his first year. They don't have Kyler Murray. It's a journeyman quarterback situation there. I just don't see them being able to beat the Commanders. I think the point spread is pretty favorable to the Cardinals, really, because 7 points, and the Commanders are not that strong a team. They have Sam Howell going. Apparently, played very well in the in the preseason. We'll see how he does, but I do have the Commanders winning and covering. Packers at the Bears, 1 point spread. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I think culture and history have something to do here. These are two of the oldest teams in NFL history. I think they both go back to the beginning of the league, and it's a marquee matchup. But I don't think either team is a Super Bowl contender. That's for sure. And I have the Bears actually last in that division, and the Packers not winning it. I think the Lions will win the division, but the Packers being second. I think Jordan Love is really the key for the Packers. If he plays well, I think they'll win. I don't think Fields has got anybody to really throw the ball to, and he's not that great a passer to begin with. I think the Packers will be looking for him to be running the ball, and they'll be ready for that. So I have the Packers winning and covering. Raiders at the Broncos. It's a lot of noise out of the Broncos camp, particularly from their head coach criticizing everybody, from the prior coaches to Russell Wilson, and taking personal attacks at Russell Wilson, which I don't think is appropriate. I think the Raiders have got their issues this year. You see that who is it? He's out because he's disagreeing with Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones, yeah.
He's probably smoking that synthetic marijuana again, and he's lost his mind. So I think the Broncos are going to win. I don't think they'll cover, though. I think this will be really close. It's a 3.5 point spread. I think it'll be like a 1 point game. So we'll have to wait and see. Dolphins at the Chargers. The Dolphins are picked to be pretty good this year, particularly if Tua can stay healthy. They got a very explosive offense. The defense is okay, not elite, but good enough to get the job done. The Chargers, on the other hand, as you say, you look at them on paper, they're probably one of the best teams in the league. But on paper and on the field are two different things. I think this will be a very close game, but I picked the Chargers because they're playing at home. And the 3 points I think they'll be able to cover. Eagles -4 at the Patriots. You're surprised by the -4 being so small. You thought the Eagles would have a higher point spread, but this is a pretty important game. I think with Tom Brady coming back and being honored in the first game of the season at the Patriots, I think that will give them some extra juice. I'm picking the Patriots in an upset in this game, and I think the Patriots are going to be a lot better than people think this year. Rams at the Seahawks. I'm picking the Seahawks only because Cooper Kupp is not going to be able to play. I don't think the Rams only really have 3 elite players, and maybe they aren't even that elite in terms of Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald, who's getting older. But Cooper Kupp is their best player by far, and he's questionable for the game, probably won't play. That hamstring is pretty tough for a wide receiver. The Seahawks, I don't think they're going to be a great team this year either, but they're playing at home. They have the 12th man, their fans, who are really outstanding, and the way that stadium is constructed, the noise all stays inside. It's just very hard for the opposing team to hear anything out there on the field. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think the Seahawks will cover, but I do think they'll win. Cowboys at the Giants. Cowboys have the Giants' number. They beat them all the time, and I don't think that's going to change. The Cowboys, I picked them not to win the division, but to be second and actually have basically the same record as the Eagles. I just don't think the head-to-head matchup against the Eagles and the Cowboys is going to favor the Cowboys, but I do think they can beat the Giants and cover the point spread. As you said, Darren Waller is questionable for the game with a hamstring. He's probably their best receiver. That if without him in the game, they'll be going back to Saquon Barkley more. It'll be tough for Daniel Jones. So I do think the Cowboys are going to win that game. And finally, the Bills at the Jets. The Jets are talking they're headed to the Super Bowl this year, and I think a lot of talk is a bad thing, and I think it got them overhyped. They're thinking about the Super Bowl instead of thinking about this Sunday and how we can win this one game. I think they're over their heads, and I think you're right. Their offensive line is weak, and I think that the Bills are a proven team. They've had some tough luck in the playoffs recently. and some of it the coach's fault, the coaching's fault, and some of it the players' fault this past year. I think they're hungry, and I think they're going to win on the road at the Jets and cover the point spread. And those are my picks, Nate.
There we go. Well, I do this every single Friday during the NFL season. It's called my Harvey Hot Hand, basically where I talk about the 5 teams where if you are to sports bet that I think you can make the most money on, or at least, have some fun sports betting. So let's get into it with my first Harvey Hot Hand of the 2023-2024 NFL season with... Let me get this up real quick. Here we go.
Buccaneers at Vikings.
So the Buccaneers at the Vikings, I think is a very, very interesting game because it's an insane downgrade going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. Not only that, you had no running game last season. Your offensive line hasn't improved. In fact, it was supposed to get better with Ryan Jensen coming back. He may have played his last snap in the NFL. He's not even going to be out there this season and may never play again. The Vikings, on the other hand, they have Christian Darrisaw. Yes, they did get rid of Dalvin Cook, but Alexander Mattison has been an okay backup for Dalvin Cook as well. Kirk Cousins, people don't like to like Kirk Cousins, but he has been pretty efficient enough that Justin Jefferson had 1,800 yards last season with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. Hell, you remember the Bills game, that amazing 4th and 18 catch he had? Who threw him that pass? Oh yeah, it was Kirk Cousins. And guess what? He threw it in a beautiful spot for Justin Jefferson to do what he does best and make plays. Also, you have Jordan Addison as your wide receiver too, instead of Adam Thielen, who sort of fell off since Justin Jefferson really took over. Hasn't been a great wide receiver too. You replace him with an energetic and really, I think a dynamic receiver in Jordan Addison as your wide receiver too. I will take the Vikings to win and cover the 5.5 points, but I'll have them winning 27-17. The next one.
Jaguars at Colts.
So Jaguars at Colts is a game that a lot of people aren't betting on the Jaguars for. However, what I got to say is this. The Colts are a huge unknown, and I think that's why a large part of people are picking the Colts to do it, because the Jaguars don't exactly know what the Colts are going to throw at them. Anthony Richardson is a huge question mark. Who will be the running back to replace Jonathan Taylor while Jonathan Taylor's out for the first 4 weeks of the season? The offensive line should be better this season for the Colts. However, who knows? They were supposed to be good last season with Matt Ryan is an upgrade over Carson Wentz as a quarterback, and that completely fell on its face. The Jaguars, on the other hand, we sort of know what we're going to get. I believe, at least in my top 10 quarterbacks list, that Trevor Lawrence is the 5th best quarterback in the NFL. Think about it. They could have made it to the AFC Championship game. They had 2 opportunities to beat Mahomes in the divisional. However, they couldn't get it done. Now, with that wide receiver core, and people thought they overpaid for Christian Kirk, and they may have, he actually performed very, very well. You add Calvin Ridley to that wide receiver core, it can only get better. Not only that, you still have Travis Etienne as your running back. So I think this Jaguars team, it'll be a slightly close game because the Jaguars haven't had, their fair share of luck against the Colts in recent history. But I think just with the major unknown and the fact that the Colts have the rawest quarterback in this draft class for this past year, I think the Jaguars will win and cover. I'll have them covering the -5 and winning 28-20.
Texans at Ravens.
This is the next game that I think is very, very fascinating because of the fact that we're going to see Lamar Jackson with actual weapons this year. The big knock on the Ravens and Lamar Jackson was Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball very well because he has no one to throw it to. Now he has OBJ. Now he has Zay Flowers. He's getting Rashad Bateman back. There are a few pieces now that Lamar Jackson has, and of course he has Mark Andrews. They have the 4th best offensive line, which may stunt Will Anderson's, peak in the NFL, to his jump start in the NFL, may put it on pause at least for week 1. I think the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, this is going to be a dynamic team. This is going to be a very, very good team. Todd Monken is going to unlock Lamar Jackson's hidden passing ability. At least that's what I've been told. And so what I'm thinking is the Ravens dominate in week 1. They cover the 9.5 point spread and win 30-17.
Bengals at Browns.
This game is interesting, and it'll shock a lot of people when you first take a look at it, but dig a little bit deeper, and you'll realize that Joe Burrow in week 1 has not been that good, has a 1-2 record in week 1. And not only that, you look a little bit deeper and realize Joe Burrow against the Browns has been pretty bad, so bad he's only 1-4. He's only won 1 game to 4 losses against the Cleveland Browns, or as I've called them in the past, the Cleveland Clowns. Now, I think the Cleveland Browns coming out now, if Deshaun Watson can even sniff what he was as a Houston Texan, that last year with the Houston Texans, where he threw for over 4,800 yards and looked great, was a top 5 quarterback in the league, I think we could see a resurgence of Deshaun Watson. He'll sort of get that, he'll be the spark plug to make the Cleveland Browns somewhat relevant. Could be interesting, them versus the Steelers for that 3rd place in the AFC North. forth, but I'm going to say the Browns win week 1, cover the 2-point spread, and upset the Cincinnati Bengals and win 27-24. And finally, as it seems like is, a repeating factor on the show.
Eagles at Patriots.
It's the Eagles and the Patriots, more so the Patriots being a part of the Harvey Hot Hand. Last season, I may have gone undefeated when it comes to picking the Patriots in my Harvey Hot Hand, but this to me makes no sense. The Patriots have the 28th best receiving core tight end group, sort of skill position. They have the 28th best. Mac Jones coming off his worst year. I'm not blaming him for it. However, he looks really good with Bill O'Brien, but they are one of the slowest offenses in the league. Not only that, they're going up against a tremendous front seven of the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against one of the worst offensive lines, and especially a not entirely healthy offensive line. That's the big thing. Trent Brown has not been that great for the Patriots, at least in recent memory. We don't know exactly if Cole Strange will be 100% ready to go, and they have Calvin Anderson at right tackle. We saw in the preseason, they had to bench Mac Jones in that third preseason game just because they were afraid that the offensive line will be so bad Mac Jones will actually maybe get hurt in that third preseason game against the Packers. So I think this is very, very telling, especially going up against a team that I guarantee you is going to be hungry. They were this close to winning the Super Bowl last year. Jalen Hurts outplayed Mahomes in that Super Bowl with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, the best offensive line in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, a top 3 quarterback in the league. I say the Eagles make this. I think the Patriots may make it interesting late because the Eagles may let up. I think the Eagles will win and cover the -4-point spread and win 30-20. And that wraps up the first Harvey Hot Hand that I've done in 2024 NFL season. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I know you disagree with that Patriots take.
I'm a little biased. I may be thinking with my heart instead of my head on that one. But Tom Brady's going to be there. They're going to honor him on the field. The fans are going to go nuts. I think that Belichick will be out there, and he and Brady will embrace. I think it will all be good, and I think the players will rise to the occasion. That's what I'm hoping.
I'll say this about the Patriots and with Tom Brady being there. Yes, Tom Brady will be in Gillette Stadium. He won't be wearing his jersey and going behind the center and saying, hut, hike, or as he said, like green 18, set, go, or whatever he says. He's not going to be the one throwing the football. That'll be Mac Jones. So, Brady will be there, but it won't be him under center, sadly. It would be great to see him in that jersey behind you again, but, I don't think that'll happen. But they are retiring his number 12, which is, always a great sign. So I know you want. It's not a topic we do during the show many of the times, but I know you do want an update. The Red Sox are playing the Baltimore Orioles at the current moment. The Baltimore Orioles are I think a lot of people, at least I would say, shockingly dominant this year. They are right now 88-51 on the year, one of the best teams
having a great year
in the MLB. And as of right now, just to give a little score update for you, it's still 0-0 going into the bottom of the second. No hits for the Red Sox, 1 hit for the Orioles. So there's your update. There's your little baseball update. But it was a good show today. We'll be back on I almost said Monday, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern to cover a bunch of football. I think
all the results.
Yeah, no, the 2 New York games, or I guess the New Jersey games as well. The Giants and Cowboys, the Jets and the Bills. Those are going to be, I think, really, really good games. I'm sure we'll talk about Patriots, Eagles. There's going to be a lot coming on Tuesday, so make sure you stay tuned. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
My grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection.